So we're about to hit the 4 hour and 20-minute mark here on our Demo 2 mission. And just in case if you're joining us, we have a little replay that we want to show you. Bob and Doug gave us a tour of their capsule just a little bit ago. So we would like to show that to you again in case if you missed it before.
Well, everyone, welcome aboard Dragon. My name is Doug. Next to me is Bob. You probably know him. We're so glad to be with you this evening and welcome you on board Dragon. Got a couple things we want to talk about first before we kind of show you around. The first is kind of a tradition we've had over the years with spacecraft going way back to the Mercury era. And then a tradition that's been carried on ever since with all our space vehicles, including the Soyuz. We're given the honor to name this capsule. I know most of you at SpaceX especially know it as Capsule 206, but I think all of us thought that we could maybe do a little bit better than that. So without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We chose Endeavour for a few reasons. One, because of this incredible Endeavour NASA, SpaceX, and the United States has been on since the end of the shuttle program back in 2011. The other reason we named it Endeavour is a little more personal to Bob and I. We both had our first flights on Shuttle Endeavour, and it just meant so much to us to carry on that name. That's what we decided to go with. So we hope you enjoy that name, and once again, welcome on board.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard Endeavour, the SpaceX vehicle headed to the International Space Station. Today, we accomplished the first flight off the Florida coast in quite some time, and Doug and I were really proud to have an opportunity to be a part of that. We're doing it in a brand new spaceship, a spaceship that's a lot different than its namesake Endeavour, the space shuttle, in that it has touch display screens that allow us to accomplish most of the interfacing requirements that we have. We'll have if Doug pans over and points at the display in front of me, you can see the forward view that we had during the maneuvers that we most recently did. You can look out the window. It looks like the centerline camera doesn't have a lot of content on it now. We're kind of pointed into space so that the windows can see the Earth below us. But we've got the capability to interface with the vehicle, and it's kind of interesting. There's a command. This little button over here is actually what the commands are for our displays. One thing that does get lost is there is a extensive button panel down below as well. So over on this side, we can turn the displays on and off, as well as send some commands for some contingency situations. On the other side, we have the ability to deploy chutes and things like that on entry. So we do have some buttons, but the primary interface is these displays. So nice, new, modern cockpit that we've got for our compared to our namesake, the Space Shuttle Endeavour. I'm going to migrate a little bit away from our seats here, and Doug from his seat is going to continue to try to follow me so you can tell what can be seen from the seat that he sits in. So from his seat, when he is inside in the vehicle, strapped in, this is what his view actually looks like. You can see a window off to the one side. We each have a window that we can view out and see what's going on outside. That was exciting on ascent for us to be able to see the arm rotate away from the pad, and that's when we both, I think, knew that we were going to launch today. So that was super cool. I've got one on my side as well. The hatch that we came in is the hatch that's right behind
Laura,
me. It is a little bit of a tight quarters, but I'm going to try to demonstrate some of the capability that we have now that we're in zero gravity. So I think I was requested to do a backflip. I'm going to kind of do a side spin, which is a little bit of a permutation on that request.
Okay.
So hopefully you can see what it's like to actually float in zero gravity. And Doug and I are super excited that we got the opportunity to do this again today, even before the end of May. So that was super cool. We did. It turns out, end up with one stowaway on board our vehicle when we launched today. It was not just Doug and I who accomplished the launch here. We do have an Apatosaurus aboard. We both have two boys who are super interested in dinosaurs, and we collected up all the dinosaurs between the two houses, and Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, got the vote from the boys to make the trip into space today with us. And so that was a super cool thing for us to get a chance to do for both of our sons, who I hope are super excited to see their toys floating around with us on board. I'm sure they would rather be here given the opportunity, but hopefully they're proud of this as well.
Okay, as we work our way towards one of the windows, unfortunately it's getting a little bit dark, but I don't know if Bob can pan over here. We just passed off of the coast of Newfoundland, and we're headed over to over the Atlantic right now. I don't know if you can get a good picture of that. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy that view as we pass over the Atlantic, and I think with that we will work ourselves back into the seats and wrap things up for this evening.
So Doug's there making a nice big smile for the camera. I hope you enjoyed the trip today with us on board the Dragon capsule Endeavour with our friend Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, and Doug and I. We just would like to thank SpaceX, we'd like to thank NASA, and we'd like to thank the American people for the opportunity today. And we're really proud of the entire team that was able to accomplish human spaceflight again from the Florida coast. Just a wonderful experience. Doug and I are just so proud to be a part of it, and just want to thank everybody who gave us this opportunity and worked so hard to make this happen today.
So with that, I think it'll be good night from Capsule Endeavour. Good night to everyone at NASA, at SpaceX, and the United States, and congratulations to the teams that got us into orbit. And we're looking forward to seeing Chris Cassidy and his Russian colleagues on board the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
I don't know about you, Leah, but I will probably be able to watch that tour of Crew Dragon many, many times. Seeing it.
Dragon, this is SpaceX MD. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Have a good night.
That was outstanding, Chris. Great to talk to you.
And Doug, last but not least, Mike will be waking you up. So bid you adieu and good night. We'll see you on station.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, so there we heard some very entertaining back and forth between Dragon Corps here in Mission Control in Hawthorne and Bob and Doug as they were getting their goodnight lullaby And basically what we heard there was our control team here in Hawthorne saying, hey guys, we're gonna let y'all sleep. We're gonna make sure that nobody calls out anything unnecessary while you're trying to sleep. But we did hear that there was a little bit of an update to the timing of the transfer burn. So we did hear that that will actually take place while they are sleeping, but we gave them the heads up that, hey, it's only going to last 30 seconds, and we will not give you the call out, or as in the Dragon Corps member will not give the call out that it was nominal, just because we want you guys to keep sleeping. So unfortunately, we weren't able to keep that out of their sleep, but sometimes that happens. But they are now aware of it and very prepared. So at this point, they are entering what is known as pre-sleep. It's basically free time, about an hour, for them to do whatever they want as they prepare to go to bed.
Yeah, and so I think also on board there are some window covers. It would be hard to want to cover up that amazing view, but we do circle the Earth about 16 times a day. So you're seeing 16 sunrises and sunsets, and I think that would be pretty confusing to your circadian rhythm.
Absolutely.
And so they have the opportunity to, put some shades on the windows and get some real darkness in the cabin.
Yeah, absolutely. That frequent orbiting around Earth provides lots of opportunities for great views, but as you might imagine, those constant sunsets and sunrises would certainly be disturbing to a sleep routine. And, we really want them to have get as close to 8 hours of sleep as possible. So minimizing the opportunity for distractions or for things that might force them to wake up is what we're trying to avoid there. So yeah, I could definitely imagine that some blackout curtains on board Dragon would be absolutely necessary. Unless if they maybe had face masks. I wouldn't mind if an eye mask, NASA eye mask with, one eye is the meatball, the other one is the worm. I could see it.
We've got to please both crowds.
Exactly.
There was a little bit of a war going on earlier today
Yep.
between the worm and the meatball.
Already stated my proud support of Team Worm. However, I did see that Leland sent out a photo on Instagram earlier that was the worm ball.
Yes, I saw that too. I love both. I think I'm proud to wear both.
Yeah,
so we've got both on my jacket too. We're well covered with NASA insignia.
Yeah, for sure. So like we said, Bob and Doug are entering pre-sleep. We won't be hearing from them anymore until it is time for them to wake up. We have just passed the 4 hour and 30 minute mark, so we're now at 4 hours and 32 minutes. So again, this journey that they are taking to the International Space Station will span over 19 hours. We will be here live providing coverage throughout that entire time. So if you want to go take a nap, that's totally cool. Be sure to tune back in when you wake up, because Bob and Doug might be waking up as well. But we will be here throughout the evening. Of course, we have friends in other parts of the country, the other parts of the world. If you're British, or if you're German, or if you're Japanese, different times of day, everyone's waking up. And I think that's something really cool about this particular broadcast, is that everyone in the world at some point in their day will be awake for the Demo 2 mission and tuning in. So on that note, let's do a little bit of a mission recap.
Yeah, that sounds great. So launch day started early today. Preparations beginning for our crew members about 4 hours prior to their launch. The crew completed their final medical checks before joining the SpaceX team to get into their spacesuits. After the suit up in the NASA operations and checkout building, the crew walked out. We saw it walking out those famous two doors and waved goodbye to their family, and we saw some virtual or air hugs. Oh, it just gets me.
That was so heart-wrenching.
Gets me every time. So we saw some of that too as they said farewell to their family outside. The next destination for the crew was the launch pad. They boarded their Teslas, and it took about 20 minutes for them to get to pad 39A, where the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon spacecraft were waiting for them. And this morning we woke up and thought it would be a 50% no-go day, and it just it just ended up being beautiful
Honestly,
for Bob and Doug.
I was trying to not get my hopes up again because it was really hard to turn around on Wednesday and say, okay, we're not going to space today. And so it took me, it wasn't until like T-minus 15 minutes that I suddenly realized, okay, like we're going for it. And then I let myself jump back into the excitement. But I feel like I was pretty calm most of the day.
No, I think I was too. I definitely got swept up in on
Yeah.
Wednesday. And so today, after we hit, like you said, that 15-minute
Yeah.
mark where things had kind of cut off on Wednesday, I was like, oh, yeah,
I
this
definitely
is the real
cried way
deal.
less today than I did Wednesday.
So the crew got to the launch pad, and about 2.5 hours before launch, they ingressed or entered the Crew Dragon spacecraft. Walking over that crew access arm, they were getting some pretty amazing views out of the windows at Florida Space Coast. And then they headed into the White Room and the vehicle itself. 40 minutes before launch, that crew access arm retracted, and a few minutes later, at T-minus 35 minutes before liftoff, the launch escape system was armed, allowing the Crew Dragon to escape the Falcon 9 on the launch pad or upon ascent. Should there be any anomaly, which we didn't see today, we saw a smooth ride into orbit. It was a beautiful launch. So with 35 minutes to go until launch, propellant loading began, filling the fuel tanks for those 9 Merlin M1D engines. And then just 5 minutes before launch, Dragon entered terminal count, meaning its onboard computers took control of the vehicle.
At 3:22 p.m. Eastern, 12:22 p.m. Pacific, those 9 Merlin M1D engines ignited, and Falcon 9 lifted off from Space Launch Complex 39A, ending a 9-year hiatus from human spaceflight at the historic Apollo 11 launch pad. With Falcon 9 first stage at full power, Bob and Doug began their journey to the International Space Station. Just after the T+9 minute mark, the first stage landed on the autonomous spaceport drone ship, which was stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, a couple minutes after that, we had payload separation, and that's when we finally saw Dragon flying free. Dragon executed later on the phase burn, which was the first of 5 major burns required to raise Dragon's orbit in its chase to the International Space Station. Around T+1 hour and 30 minutes, the crew completed the far field manual flight test. Dragon is fully autonomous, so basically the spacecraft does all of the navigating and burns to get to station all on its own. That far field manual flight test allowed the crew to test the systems that would allow them to override Dragon's computers and maneuver manually should they ever need to take control.
After the flight test, the Dragon spacecraft executed the boost burn. The boost burn raised Dragon's apogee, or the highest point of its orbit, to just 10 kilometers lower than the space station. This was the second of those 5 major burns that are propelling Dragon on its mission, and it lasted about 7.5 minutes. The third of the major burns occurred about 45 minutes later. That's the close coelliptic burn. The firing of the Draco thrusters lasted just under 10 minutes and placed Dragon on an orbit roughly coelliptic with the space station. This means Dragon is now maintaining that 10-kilometer orbit below station rather than just reaching it at the apogee.
Yeah, so we've had a super exciting day already. More to come, certainly. The journey to the International Space Station has just begun, like we've said over and over again at this point. 19 hours Bob and Doug have on their mission, or excuse me, on their journey chasing down the station. And, we talked about long car rides before and being in confined spaces. This would definitely qualify as an epic ride of some sort, not a car ride, but I guess spaceship ride, and that's part of just getting to space. Is in this case, we only have 2 astronauts on board Crew Dragon today, but in the future we will have 4. So I suspect their ability to do backflips, as we saw in that little tour of Dragon, might be a little bit more limited.
They'll get every opportunity once they get to the space station.
That is true. That is very true.
And hopefully that 8 hours of sleep, if they're able to sleep, I might be too excited. I know I would be too excited
for
after
sure.
a day like that. But hopefully that'll help them pass some of the 19 hours, and then you wake up and you're practically there, right?
Exactly.
So So we took a look at everything that happened today, but once the crew wakes up in the morning, we'll have a number of events that will eventually lead to the docking, targeted for 7:29 a.m. Pacific. However, there are still a couple of milestones to occur while the Crew Dragon crew is still asleep. The first of those is actually the space station crew will wake up. Currently on board the station is NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy and Roscosmos cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner. About 30 minutes after the space station crew wakes up, Dragon itself will perform the fourth maneuver known as the transfer burn. This is where we're raising Dragon's apogee, or the highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers below the station.
About 15 minutes after the close co-elliptic burn completes, it'll be time for our two dads in space to wake on up. They've chosen a particular song to be played as their wake-up anthem. We don't know what it is just yet, so be sure to tune in here on our webcast in a few hours, about 8 hours now, in order to hear it first. We round everything out with a final co-elliptic burn to once again maintain the constant orbit beneath the station. This time it'll be at just 2.5 kilometers below. And then we'll get into the approach initiation and final stages of Dragon's rendezvous with the space station. Now this is really excited because when we get into those integrated operations, we transfer control from Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne over to Houston. So that team that switch over, those teams will transition to integrated operations roughly 45 minutes prior to approach initiation.
Yeah, and so during that approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston, as you mentioned, to activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system, which stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles. And that also sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground and giving an additional command capability to astronauts on the station. They'll also maneuver Dragon to the proper altitude and initialize the navigation sensors used for the methodical approach to station.
At approximately 5:27 a.m. Pacific, Draco thrusters on Dragon will fire for the approach initiation burn when Dragon is about 2.5 kilometers below station and just about 7 kilometers behind it. So at this point, they're getting close. I would say they're probably visible from the station at that point, like
Yes,
making eye contact.
I would think so.
Yeah. And at that point, that maneuver will swing Dragon up until it is about 400 meters or a quarter mile directly below the station. This maneuver will also move Dragon inside one of two checkpoints around the station that requires a set of go, no-go polls with the different control teams. The first checkpoint is called the approach ellipsoid, or as you might hear it called, the AE. The AE is an imaginary shape measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, essentially a three-dimensional oval. Before Dragon is given permission to move anywhere near that shape or inside of it, inside the ellipsoid, the capsule is configured to be on what is known as a 24-hour safe trajectory. That means that if Dragon lost all control to its thrusters for some reason, that it would be at least 24 hours before its trajectory would move inside the approach ellipsoid.
And so at 6:03 a.m. Pacific time, we'll be looking for Dragon to get the go to move inside the keep out sphere. That's another imaginary checkpoint that consists of an imaginary sphere around station with a radius of 200 meters, so about half of a lap around a track. Flight controllers use this to monitor all arriving and departing vehicles. It's another chance to confirm all of the guidance, navigation, and control systems are working correctly on Dragon before moving closer to the station. It has the similar requirement on the orbital trajectory that if Dragon were to somehow lose control of its thrusters, it and the space station would be safe for 4 orbits, or about 6 hours, rather than the 24 hours required to enter the approach ellipsoid. Once Dragon arrives at 400 meters below station, it'll reach what is known as Waypoint 0, and that'll be the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can hold here at 400 meters, but if all of its systems check out, it can continue the approach to Waypoint 1.
Dragon's move from Waypoint 0 to Waypoint 1 will swing it up and then out in front of the station, pausing at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be on what we call the docking axis, which essentially means that it is directly in front of the docking port. Bob and Doug are headed to the forwardmost port on the station, the Node 2 forward port. That's where Dragon docked just over a year ago on the Demo 1 mission, and is where one of 2 international docking adapters is located, and which was installed for these new commercial spacecraft flights, as well as any other future spacecraft that will use the international docking standard.
So before moving into the final waypoint, which is waypoint 2, the crew will execute another manual flight test like we saw earlier in the day, but this time in what we consider the near field, which just means it's close to the station. The crew will command a hold at 220 meters and then conduct a series of maneuvers. First, they'll fly Dragon to the center line of the docking approach, precisely lining it up with the international docking adapter. Then they'll do a number of what are called translational maneuvers, using the Draco thrusters on Dragon to move it along the different axes, checking in with the ground on how much propellant is used. Of course, Dragon is designed to be fully autonomous, so this is to demonstrate Dragon's ability to perform controlled maneuvers like braking and even retreating, as well as to determine position and velocity relative to the station. And once that's complete, they will transition control back over to the Dragon flight computer to resume automated docking. After the flight test is complete, teams in Hawthorne here and in Houston will do a quick go, no-go to resume the approach and then start to move in toward waypoint 2. Once Dragon starts moving in, they will do a final go, no-go for docking.
Now, once Dragon is only 20 meters away at waypoint 2, the spacecraft then focuses on aligning its docking system with the International Docking Adapter. We may hear the call-out CHOP, or CHOP, which stands for Crew Hands-Off Point, and that'll happen a little less than 30 seconds before docking. At that point, it means that any aborts that have to be done, that means that at that point, any aborts to the docking procedure will have to be done automatically by Dragon.
And then it is the moment we've all been waiting for, besides launch today, obviously. When our crew arrives at the space station, Dragon will fly in and make contact with the International Docking Adapter, giving us what we call soft capture, so the work isn't done yet. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it's time for 12 hooks to drive in place and give us a hard capture, firmly securing Dragon to its new home on the space station. Meanwhile, the space station crew, namely Chris Cassidy, will manually pressurize the vestibule, which is the area between the Dragon hatch and the station hatch, and power, audio, and data connections will be established from the station to Dragon. Then it's time for leak checks and hatch opening, which is currently timelined to come about 2 hours following docking.
Okay, good to know. And a little fun fact for all of you out there. Now, prior to the installation of the International Docking Adapter, or IDA, as you may have read about it, this port is also where space shuttles used to dock on the station as well. So, like I said before, Doug Hurley, spacecraft commander on board Dragon today, was the pilot of the very last space shuttle mission. That shuttle docked to the very same place that Crew Dragon will be docking tomorrow morning. That means that Doug, who was one of the last astronauts to depart the International Space Station via shuttle, will actually be opening up the very same hatch he closed nearly a decade ago. I just think about that and my heart rate starts going up again. So like we have seen, Crew Dragon has a very busy morning ahead, evening and busy. But even in space, it takes 2 to tango. The International Space Station is also a factor in the mix for this dance-like approach operation. And as you've heard me say before, it is a choreograph of many sorts. So that's why we've been going back and forth between Mission Control here in Hawthorne for updates, as well as Mission Control Houston for updates as well. On that note, do we have an update from perhaps Courtney Beasley over at Mission Control Houston?
Hey, Kate, we do indeed have an update. And again, it's such an exciting day, and I'm happy to be joining the two of you for coverage into the overnight hours from Johnson Space Center. Here in Mission Control Houston, the Orbit 3 team of flight controllers is on console today, led by Flight Director Rebecca Wingfield. Flight controllers here in Houston are continuing to alternate the flight control rooms they are using from shift to shift to prevent contact between the members of one shift to the next. At this hour, the International Space Station crew is asleep. The trio know, NASA astronaut and station commander Chris Cassidy and Roscosmos cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner went to sleep around 4:30 p.m. Central Time. They'll continue that sleep period until just about 1 a.m. Central Time on Sunday morning, ready to begin an exciting day of work. Then around 5:35 a.m. Central Time, Cassidy has a rendezvous conference with ground controllers to review rendezvous procedures that the Crew Dragon crew will be executing later in the morning. He will then move on to begin setting up tools that will be used for leak checks between the space station and Crew Dragon after docking, as well as setting up photo TV equipment to capture the historic hatch opening later that day. And from there, Cassidy will move into his midday meal. Then around 8:25 a.m. Central Time, Cassidy will begin monitoring the approach of Crew Dragon. Again, another moment we've all been waiting for. He'll be in the cupola workstation on board the International Space Station as Crew Dragon begins its approach initiation burn to bring it below the station, then in front of the station for the final approach before docking. Once the hooks are driven to form a hard mate between Crew Dragon and the station, which is scheduled for 9:44 a.m. Central Time, Cassidy will then work in tandem with Bankin and Hurley to equalize pressure to ensure there's a tight seal between Crew Dragon and the International Space Station before they open the hatch to greet their new crew members who will become members of the Expedition 63 crew at the time they float through the station's Harmony module. And we continue to have all systems a go on the International Space Station. So back to Hawthorne for an update from you guys.
It does sound good over there, Courtney. Thanks so much for that update. And we'll come back to you shortly to see what else is going on the International Space Station. But in the meantime, let's learn a little bit more about our two astronauts aboard the Crew Dragon. Doug Hurley is the spacecraft commander for this mission. He previously flew on 2 space shuttle missions as the pilot on STS-127 and, as we've discussed, STS-135, the final space shuttle flight. Let's take a closer look at Doug Hurley.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited.
You feel ready? Still pumped?
Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX Demo 2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final space shuttle mission. Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
It's a life-changing process in so many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects. Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration. When the engines shut off and you go from, in the case of the shuttle, you go from 3 Gs to 0 Gs instantaneously and things start floating. And I remember distinctly just thinking, what just happened? To see a rocket launch in person is, it's a pretty emotional event. I remember the first time I saw a shuttle launch and it was amazing. And then when I saw a shuttle launch with my wife on it, that is quite the emotional experience. My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station. We are doing the first crewed flight for NASA and for SpaceX. So this is the test flight to prove end-to-end from launch to docking to ISS operations and then entry, descent, and landing. This will be the first time the Dragon had a crew on board, and so there's a myriad of objectives we want to achieve for this mission. SpaceX has been responsible for design and essentially making this vehicle what it is. What the astronauts bring to the table is the crew vehicle interface. What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work, to be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station talking together, working through the challenges that simulators typically throw at you. It was really neat being part of it. It's just been an incredible undertaking to see where we've come just in the last 5 years that Bob and I have been a part of this, and to be, shortly flying to the International Space Station with the Crew Dragon. It overwhelms you to think about how many people have, in some way, shape, or form, touched this program and this vehicle to get us to this point. And we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into this to make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream, to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dreams come true for that.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the Commercial Crew Program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point. It's been a huge amount of sacrifice and time away from home, but the fruits of our labor are coming to fruition.
Now, sitting next to Doug Hurley inside of Dragon is NASA astronaut Bob Behnken. He is the Joint Operations Commander for Demo 2. Behnken previously flew on 2 shuttle missions, STS-123 and STS-130. And he also served a tour as Chief of the Astronaut Office. Here's more on the man who says testing out a brand new spacecraft is an astronaut's dream.
When you go through the launch day preparations, there's a lot of moments that kind of stand out to you. One is the kind of the celebratory piece of it, which is that you're walking out of the suit up room and getting in the vehicle that's going to take you to the launch pad. When you close the hatch, that's really when Doug and I are in the vehicle, and it's our vehicle, and we're really in control of the mission at that point.
Test pilots, their task proved that man could fly into orbit around the Earth and return live and well to talk about it.
There's always a balance of managing risk as you go forward to execute a test point and figuring out a way to collect the data. We hear a sound. Okay, is that sound an expected sound? Or we see a light, is that light an expected light? What's the source of it? Does it sync up with something else that's going on or not? So trying to dissect all of that in real time in your head is, a lot of things happen like that on launching of a vehicle.
From St. Anne, Missouri, he is an Air Force colonel and flight test engineer. He flew aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour twice. Introducing NASA astronaut Bob Behnken.
My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000. Went through the training program, primarily focused on the Space Shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, the second time was definitely different than the first time. You can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get? Am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now. It's been really interesting, I think, for both my wife and I to have gone through the process of seeing each other launch in space. I've seen her take that risk and had it be in front of her, and I've done that to her. There's just something different about watching a rocket launch when there are people on board. You feel a little bit differently about the pit of your stomach, and I can only tell you it's multiplied significantly when it's somebody that you know, and then somebody, of course, that's a family member. It's even multiplied more.
For me personally, as a spouse, watching everything that Bob has put into this over the last 5 years, the dedication that he's shown, the perseverance is pretty special. For both of us, though, the way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. Really, my role on the Demo 2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them. Through years of the NASA team, helping to share that experience and teaching them the lessons that we've learned by going through this. Now there's another capability in the U.S. besides NASA to operate something of this magnitude. When is the last time humans launched on a new vehicle? Certainly on the American side, it's been several decades. Now we're in a time when we've got multiple vehicles under development. It's a great time from a space exploration time frame just to see all that happening, and it's because of this nurturing of the environment, being able to pull in a wider group of people who can contribute towards human spaceflight. It's a super cool time. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles in the launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
Yeah, not only do they look pretty cool wearing their suits, you know, as astronauts tend to do, but the suits look like they're from the future. Our team here at SpaceX designed the suit in-house to maximize safety and functionality, with style, of course. Here's Chris Trigg and Maria Sundin telling us how the suit came to be.
I think one of the things that was important in the development of the suit was to make it easy to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care of itself from there. So the suit is really kind of one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
Our spacesuit is completely designed in-house. It's built here in Hawthorne, California, in the same building as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom-made for each crew member, and that is to optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to innovate, and we wanted it to look inspiring, but first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit, provides them hearing protection, and the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. When the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seat. And the umbilical is providing everything that the suit needs. So it provides the avionics or electronics for communications, is providing the air to cool the suit, and then it also provides gas when needed to pressurize the suit. So it's really a single point that lets the suit do all the things that it needs to do. We designed the helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different functions. Obviously, it's protecting the crew's head and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit, but it also houses the microphones as well as the valves that are regulating pressure in the suit. We had to design the gloves so that they would work with the touchscreens, but the gloves also still had to do a number of other things like the rest of the suit. So all of those things had to come together within the glove. It'll be obviously really amazing to see Bob and Doug in their flight suits, and I think one of the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware, it's not just a suit, it's a very personal thing. It's Bob's suit and it's Doug's suit. And so seeing the two of them in their suits using it in flight will be just a really amazing thing.
The International Space Station is truly that, international. Director General Sasaki Hiroshi of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, shares his thoughts and well wishes. Let's take a look.
Congratulations on the successful flight of DM-2 to the ISS. We are so glad to see the new US vehicle is now flying to the ISS. The vehicle is very important for ISS program. It provides more flexibility and progress of the ISS. JAXA has been working together with NASA many years, and we want to continue the collaborations. And we are looking forward to sending Japanese astronauts to the ISS by this vehicle. Once again, congratulations on the successful flight to the ISS.
For the last 9 years, Americans have launched to the International Space Station on Russian Soyuz rockets. The Roscosmos Agency is a critical partner of ours in low Earth orbit. And to give his thoughts on this new era is cosmonaut and now Director of Human Spaceflight at Roscosmos, Sergei Krikalev.
Мне хотелось бы поприветствовать наших американских коллег. Начался очередной цикл испытаний пилотируемого корабля. Такой корабль уже летал в беспилотном варианте, но сейчас, конечно, очень такой важный и ответственный вариант, когда люди полетели на новом корабле, и это открывает новый этап в пилотируемой программе, мировой пилотируемой программе, программе Международной космической станции, куда полетел этот корабль, потому что у нас появляются новые возможности, новые резервы, и я уверен, что успех этой миссии даст нам дополнительные возможности, которые пойдут на пользу всей международной программе.
The support from spaceflight leaders around the world continues with these words from Junichi Sakai, also of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency.
Hello everyone. Thank you for giving such an honorable opportunity to celebrate a commencement of new space exploration era, which the new space vehicle opens up. The first commercial manned vehicle was successfully launched and docked to the ISS on May 28, 2020. This is an epoch-making event for all human space activity. It has not only accomplished human space transportation from the United States to the ISS, which American people have been eager for, but also bring us a redundant transportation system to LEO. It means the ISS will become more robust for its future use. Before demonstration 2, JAXA launched HTB-9 and transported the batteries to the ISS successfully. It was final vehicle of HTB, but JAXA will be introducing a new transportation vehicle, HTB-X, in the near future. I anticipate this vehicle opens up various utilization of LEO. Congratulations on successful launch of SpaceX Demonstration 2 and dawn of a new era.
still here at Mission Control in Hawthorne, California. Bob and Doug are currently sleeping, at least we sure hope they are, and they are on their way to the International Space Station. While there is not a lot of cargo on today's mission, Dragon is carrying 2 special payloads, aside from Bob and Doug, of course. The first is a series of custom art pieces entitled Humankind by Los Angeles artist Tristan Eaton. These indestructible double-sided paintings are made from gold, brass, and aluminum, and they celebrate how far humanity has come as well as how far we still have to go. It includes a beautiful homage to the Saturn V rocket as well as a nod to Bob and Doug's current ride to space. You can find more images and information about these pieces on SpaceX's social channels.
Next, in the spirit of inspiring the next generation of explorers, we wanted to celebrate the class of 2020, and that's from kindergarten graduates to graduate school. SpaceX and NASA invited students from around the world to submit their photo to fly on America's first human spaceflight in nearly a decade. Each graduate's photo was used to create a mosaic image of the planet Earth, which is printed and being flown aboard Bob and Doug's flight spacecraft. There were nearly 100 submission. So thank you so much to everybody who submitted photos, and congratulations to all of the graduates.
Yeah, so unfortunate that many people were unable to have a graduation ceremony of their own. So hopefully this is a nice little gesture in order to help fill that gap, even though there's nothing quite like walking down the aisle and getting your diploma and shaking hands.
Pretty special to be able to say that your photo went to space.
Yeah. So we're still trucking along here in Hawthorne, outside of Mission Control Center. We have a pretty quiet ride in front of us, like I mentioned before. Bob and Doug are sleeping and all is quiet. No calls being made up to station, which is good. You know, there's no alarms or anything like that going off. So everything is looking really awesome here as we have just passed the T+5 hour and 31-minute mark into the Demo 2 mission.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us live. We're here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, keeping track of Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley in the Crew Dragon, now named Endeavour, on their way to the International Space Station. It's been a big day for SpaceX, for NASA, for America in general, and of course for the two astronauts on board. Launch day preparations started early today for the crew, and that was about 4 hours prior to launch. They completed their final medical checks before joining the SpaceX team to get suited up. After that, in the NASA Operations and Checkout building, the crew walked out, waving some final farewells, giving those air hugs, and saying goodbye to their family that was waiting outside. The next destination for the crew was the launch pad. It was about a 20-minute Tesla ride to Pad 39A, where Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon spacecraft were waiting for them. About 2.5 hours prior to launch, the crew ingressed or entered the Crew Dragon spacecraft, walking over the crew access arm, getting a last look out of the windows at Florida, and heading into the White Room and the vehicle itself. About 40 minutes before launch, the crew access arm retracted or drew back, and a few minutes later, at T-35 before liftoff, the launch escape system was armed. This would have allowed the Crew Dragon to escape the Falcon 9 on the launch pad or upon ascent, should there have been any anomaly with the vehicle, which fortunately we saw a smooth ride into orbit today, and things continued to be so. With 35 minutes to go until launch, propellant loading began and it filled the fuel tanks for those 9 Merlin M1D engines. With just 5 minutes before liftoff, Dragon entered terminal count, meaning its onboard computers took control of the vehicle.
At 3:22 p.m. Eastern or 12:22 p.m. Pacific, moment that we had been waiting for a couple days at this point, and the moment that my heart rate went to 150 BPM according to my heart rate monitor. Those 9 Merlin M1D engines ignited and Falcon 9 lifted off from Space Launch Complex 39A and ending a 9-year hiatus from human spaceflight at the historic Apollo 11 launch pad. With Falcon 9 first stage at full power, Bob and Doug began their journey to the International Space Station. Just after the T+9 minute mark, the first stage landed on the autonomous spaceport drone ship, which was stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. And then a couple minutes after that, we had payload separation, and that's where we saw Dragon finally flying free. Dragon executed later on the phase burn, which was the first of 5 major burns that are required to raise Dragon's orbit. At about T+1 hour and 30 minutes, the crew completed the far-field manual flight test. Dragon is fully autonomous. That baby drives itself. But the far-field manual flight test allowed the crew to test the systems that would allow them to override Dragon's computers and maneuver manually should they ever need to take control.
After that flight test, the Dragon spacecraft executed the boost burn. The boost burn raised Dragon's apogee, or the highest point of its orbit, to just 10 kilometers below the space station. And this was the second of those 5 major burns. It lasted about 7.5 minutes. The third of the major burns occurred about 45 minutes later, the close co-elliptic burn. This firing of the Draco thrusters lasted just under 10 minutes and placed Dragon on an orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station, which means that Dragon is now maintaining that 10-kilometer orbit below station rather than just reaching it at the apogee. It's been a busy day so far for the crew and Dragon. They're currently getting some sleep.
Yeah, and I feel it. I could use some sleep right about now.
Much needed sleep. Yeah. So a busy day, and then we've got some other things coming up tomorrow, but let's live it all over again and take a look back at some of the day's highlights.
This is NASA TV.
You're looking at the American-made rocket and spacecraft that will return American astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil for the first time since the retirement of the space shuttle, last flown nearly 9 years ago. Today, we're giving it another shot with our partners at SpaceX. Wednesday's first attempt was postponed due to that wild weather. But if all goes well today, we will mark a new first in NASA's storied history and usher in the commercial crew era of American spaceflight. There's astronaut Doug Hurley getting into his spacesuit, and he's being helped by one of the suit technicians there. He has flown into space 2 times before. He was the pilot on STS-127 and 135. And there's a wider shot. You can see astronaut Bob Behnken also in view now. Bob is to the right of your screen, and he also flew on 2 shuttle missions. Bob is a native of St. Ann, Missouri. And Doug is from Appalachian, New York. He was born in Endicott, considers Appalachian his hometown. We can see now NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. He's talking to the crew, and it looks like Associate Administrator Jim Morhard is also in the room, standing to the right of your screen.
And these are great moments to get a last chance to talk to the senior leadership of NASA as they're about to go off and launch into the cosmos. And I think when you look at how Bob and Doug complement each other, and how these SpaceX suits, you know, they really complement the astronauts too, because they're more form-fitted, they're custom-made, and this is a moment where they're getting ready to, you know, do the real deal. And Lauren, I think, you know, the integration of the suit and the vehicle and these seats is just really, really impressive. How y'all at SpaceX did that.
Yeah, the primary purpose of the spacesuit, it's a pressure suit. Now, the Dragon capsule is already pressurized, so even in the vacuum of space, the crew is safe when inside of Dragon. But in the unlikely event of an anomaly that causes the capsule to depressurize, we can actually flow oxygen or nitrox into the suit, and that will keep the astronauts pressurized in flight. So that's its main purpose. So it's that form and function, and some style there as well.
And for the kids out there that have 3D printers or have 3D printed, the actual helmets were made by 3D printing. So you could be a spacesuit designer yourself because you already have the skill set, and or fly in space one day if you wanted to.
And we are looking at a live picture now of Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley walking down that hallway in the astronaut crew quarters. We just saw Doug wave at the screen, and they're just turning the corner, getting inside that elevator. And this, you can't see it from here, but there is a banner hanging there. You can kind of see it in the back. There's a banner hanging on the wall of the elevator with the signatures of all the people who worked on this mission. So it was really important for them to hang that up in there so Bob and Doug could see it. And there the doors are opening.
Here they come.
Great. And there they are, NASA astronauts.
Small crowd, but big cheers.
NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, Doug on the left, Bob on the right, waving to the crowd there to cheer them on. And there are their families right in front of them.
The virtual hugs, a very special moment. Fist bumps.
Are you going to be on good behavior? Are you going to listen to mommy and make her life easy?
You can hear them.
Ready? Let's light this candle, I agree. Launch America! Bye, guys.
Now they are getting into the Tesla Model X that's going to take them to the launch pad, being strapped into their seats.
Their suit techs are attaching their umbilicals, so integrated into the Teslas. These are not just any Tesla you can just buy off the web or in a Tesla dealership. They've been outfitted with cooling units, and that white umbilical, similar to what you saw in the suit room, that umbilical is being connected to the suit to provide cooling air to the astronauts while they're on the way to the pad. And those Falcon wing doors are closing.
Super sleek.
A rapid departure from the Astrovan.
Yes, I would say so.
And their flight surgeon is in the front seat in the passenger side, taking the journey along with them.
As I mentioned last time, we always think about the technology and the rockets, but this is what it's all about, the families coming together, supporting the families, us working together as a team to ensure they get up there safely and back home safely for their families.
I couldn't hear everything they were saying, but I did catch Bob telling his son to be good for mom and make her life easy. As a parent, I appreciate that.
Let's see that prominent NASA meatball.
There's our hangar. We process Falcon Heavy in there. There are other boosters in that hangar as well. And the rocket and Dragon that is on the pad right now was put together, or rather finally integrated inside of that hangar and then rolled out to that pad to go up vertical.
And there it is. That shot really gives you a sense of the scale of the Falcon 9 rocket. Those Teslas look teeny, teeny, tiny, making their way up there.
Yeah, really cool watching the Teslas pull up, driving on the launch pad just a few feet away from the vehicle. This is awesome and getting really excited over here.
Looks like they've already gotten out of the car and they are walking up to the elevator that will carry them all the way up to the 255-foot level, and then they'll have a couple of steps to get up to the level where the crew access arm is.
Core on countdown 1 at 2 hours 57 minutes. The crew has arrived at the pad on schedule.
There they are, taking in the sight, craning to see the top of the Falcon 9 rocket. It's 230 feet tall if you round up, and then Crew Dragon is another 27 feet from the bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone. So when you're out there in person, it's really hard to describe just how large it is.
Look at them getting excited. They're ready to get in the vehicle, get in the elevator, and make it to the top.
And we should hear a call any moment that the crew has arrived at the pad as they make their way up the stairs, and they're headed to the crew access arm now.
So as you can see, they have already arrived at pad 39A, where Falcon 9 will lift off from at 3:22 p.m. Eastern time today. They have ascended the tall structure already, which is next to the rocket, and it's called the fixed service structure, and also have already walked down the corridor, which is known as the crew arm, which is what they're standing in right now.
That's right, and as they prepare to board Dragon, they have this one final stop that they're standing in right now, and that's the White Room. The White Room is literally just the room at the end of the crew arm that has an opening into Dragon. It is the last place on planet Earth Bob and Doug are going to be standing before they step into Dragon for their ride to the International Space Station.
4 on countdown 1 at T-minus 2 hours and 46 minutes. The crew has arrived at the White Room and its ingress is in progress on schedule.
And as they climb into Dragon, they will buckle themselves in and attach their umbilicals to their suits. And as you can see, the suit techs are there to help them get buckled and settled into those seats.
And we can see the seats slowly start to rotate. Again, they're in this down position just to make it easier to climb in and out of Dragon. They'll rotate to this launch position to put their backs a little bit more parallel to the ground. It makes taking the G-force a little bit easier for the crew on the way uphill, but most importantly, positions those touchscreens directly in front of them, which is just their gateway into Dragon.
Dragon, SpaceX, seats are in the launch position.
We copy.
And launch control clear to retract the access arm on time.
SpaceX Dragon displays are configured for launch.
Copy. Bob, Doug, on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, it's been a huge honor to help you get ready for today's historic mission. Know that we're with you, have an amazing flight, and enjoy those views of our beautiful planet.
Thanks, Jay. It is absolutely our honor to be part of this huge effort to get the United States back in the launch business. We'll talk to you from orbit. Thank you.
Copy all. Thanks for those words.
Falcon 9 is in startup.